and gentlemen, a warm welcome to Singapore International Cyber Week 2022. We are awaiting the arrival of our distinguished guests and our host anytime now. And when they do, if you could kindly do me a favor and please rise to give them a warm welcome when they enter the room. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join me in welcoming our distinguished guests for this morning, together with our host, the Minister of Communications and Information, Second Minister for Home Affairs, Minister in charge of Smart Nation and Cybersecurity, Mrs. Josephine Teo. Good morning. You may be seated. Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a warm welcome to the opening ceremony of the 7th ASEAN Ministerial Conference on Cybersecurity 2022. I'm Charmaine E, and it's my privilege to be your host this morning. First held in 2016, the AMCC continues to bring all ASEAN member states and ASEAN Dialogue Partner countries all together for frank and cross-cutting discussions on cybersecurity cooperation. We're pleased to have all of you here with us this morning. To begin this morning's conference proceedings, it brings me great pleasure to invite Mrs. Josephine Teo, Minister for Communication and Information, Second Minister for Home Affairs, and Minister in charge of Smart Nation and Cybersecurity up on stage for her opening address. Minister Teo, please.
Your Excellencies, Deputy Secretary General for the ASEAN Economic Community, Mr. Satvinder Singh, senior officials, colleagues, and friends. Good morning once again and welcome to the 7th ASEAN Ministerial Conference on Cybersecurity, or AMCC for short. I'm very pleased to finally meet all our ASEAN colleagues in person today as a group after 2 years where the AMCC was conducted virtually. I also want to greet all of our dialogue partners who are represented today and thank you for making the time and effort to interact with all of us in ASEAN. Last week, I attended the Tallinn Digital Summit and was posed during a panel discussion a question on how the digital landscape had changed over the past 15 years. The Estonian colleagues used 15 years because in 2007, they suffered a major cyber attack that was permanently seared in their minds and a constant reminder of how important it is to take cybersecurity seriously. So the question was anchored on the 15 years since 2007. Well, in those 15 years, we have moved from 3G to 4G, and now many of us getting ready or already having deployed 5G. Many of us use the iPhone. We are now in version 14. In ASEAN, with a population of about 660 million, in fact more than half, around 340, 350 million of our people are already digital users. 60 million of them added during the pandemic alone. So the extent of digitalization in our region is happening very quickly and also shows no signs of slowing down. Bloomberg, in fact, estimates that Southeast Asia's digital economy in 2022 alone will grow by 25%. It is an exciting time for ASEAN to tap on the opportunities that digitalization brings. But we all are also keenly aware that where there are opportunities, there are also threats and risks. Just this year alone, we've seen several crippling cyber attacks, such as those against our colleagues in Costa Rica and Albania. Globally, it is estimated that almost $950 billion was lost to cybercrime in 2020. The numbers must have ballooned in 2021, and I think when we eventually tally up the figures in 2022, it's quite likely to have surpassed $1 trillion. As digitalization touches more aspects of our lives, we will be exposed to a wider range of cyber attacks, cybercrime, and other online harms. A safe and secure cyberspace is the foundation of a sustainable digital future. It allows us to trust the technologies that we use and gives us the confidence to continue on our digitalization journeys. This year's ASEAN Chairmanship theme, Addressing Challenges Together, is an apt rallying call. In the area of cybersecurity, we must act and address challenges in unity to build a sustainable digital future together. ASEAN has certainly made significant strides in strengthening our collective cybersecurity. In January this year, the second ASEAN Cybersecurity Cooperation Strategy was adopted during the second ASEAN Digital Ministers meeting. Together with other initiatives undertaken at various ASEAN meetings, the strategy will help advance cooperation among our countries and strengthen our regional cybersecurity posture. Singapore looks forward to working with our ASEAN partners to implement this strategy over the next few years. One key initiative in the strategy is the establishment of an ASEAN Regional Computer Emergency Response Team, or CERT. We have conducted ASEAN CERT incident drill annually since 2006 to strengthen the preparedness of our country's CERTs. Given the growing sophistication of cyber attacks, ASEAN member states recognize that we need to be even more intentional in strengthening regional CERT-to-CERT collaboration. ASEAN member states therefore agreed to establish an ASEAN regional CERT as part of this strategy adopted. This is an important step in building regional cyber resilience. Now, the next step is to continue our good momentum to operationalize the ASEAN regional CERT. What are we seeking to achieve? We envision the regional CERT to be a virtual center comprising analysts and incident responders from across ASEAN. They will work closely to ensure timely information sharing during an incident. For example, if a supply chain attack were to occur in any of our countries, regional CERT analysts would rapidly share information from their own countries and jointly develop advisories when needed. In other words, we are weaving a tighter net that will hopefully help to prevent the cyber attackers from getting through too easily. Singapore has circulated a draft operational framework, and we look forward to your inputs. Having strong operational capabilities is just one aspect of our cyber resilience. A safe and secure cyberspace is also supported by the adoption and effective implementation of rules, norms, and principles of responsible state behavior in cyberspace. All of us in ASEAN appreciate the importance of an open, secure, stable, and interoperable cyberspace based on mutual trust and confidence. We have the distinction of being the first and still the only regional grouping to have subscribed in principle to the 11 voluntary and non-binding norms of responsible state behavior in the use of ICTs. Capacity building is the bedrock supporting states in improving our collective cyber resilience. Since the launch of the ASEAN Cyber Capacity Program in 2016, Singapore has hosted over 40 programs and trained close to 1,500 officials from around the region. We will strengthen capacity building efforts within and beyond the region. For example, we had recently launched the UN Singapore Cyber Fellowship to facilitate cross-regional learning with other UN member states. Developing the rules of the road for cyberspace requires deliberate and consistent effort. We need to actively implement the 11 voluntary and non-binding norms. I'm therefore pleased to note that the ASEAN Regional Plan of Action on the implementation of norms of responsible state behavior in cyberspace was endorsed last year when we met virtually. We had agreed at the time that subscribing to the principles was a good first step, but it needs to be supported by concrete plan of action in order to put those principles into practice. The plan of action therefore outlines concrete steps that states could take and also identifies specific areas that countries can focus on for capacity building. At the UN, the ongoing 5-year Open-Ended Working Group, or OEWG, continues to build on the work of previous international cyber norms discussion. As chair of the OEWG, we thank our ASEAN partners for your continued support and participation. In closing, I want to reaffirm the significant progress that ASEAN has made towards a secure and resilient cyberspace. We have accomplished all these because we stand by the principle of addressing challenges together to build a sustainable digital future for all our peoples. I look forward to our discussions at the AMCC, and I wish all of you a pleasant and fruitful time in Singapore. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Minister Teo. I'd like to invite you to your seats at this point. The ASEAN Secretary-General, Dato' Lim Jock Hoi, is unable to join us in person today. We have, however, prepared a recording of his remarks for all of us here today. May we have the ASEAN Secretary-General opening remarks, please.
Her Excellency Josephine Teo, Minister for Communication and Information, Republic of Singapore, Excellencies, Ministers from ASEAN Member States, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning. I am pleased to deliver opening remarks at the 7th ASEAN Minister Conference on Cybersecurity. I would like to commend Singapore for convening this important event. This event will be a timely opportunity for insightful sharing on measures and policy necessary to build ASEAN as a future-proof community where cybersecurity is an essential element. Today's conference takes place amidst the regional social-economic landscape that has been transformed significantly by digital technologies. Indeed, ASEAN is now home of 440 million internet users, of which 80% are digital consumers, with 125,000 new internet users joining every day. The ASEAN digital economy is projected to grow exponentially, adding nearly 1.1 trillion US dollars to the region's GDP in 2030. With the ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2025, as well as the Bandar-Seri Begawan Roadmap on Digital Transformation, as a framework, ASEAN is ready to harness digital technologies to create new trade opportunity, contribute to the creation of jobs, as well as enhance innovation, productivity, and living standards. Nevertheless, as we become more dependent on digital network, we should also be more vigilant in safeguarding our digital resilience. The potential benefit of the ASEAN digital community could be undermined by the escalating threat of cybersecurity, as seen by the countless number of malicious cyber attacks that have increased in scope, scale, severity, and sophistication. A recent survey among 500 organizations across the region shows that 94% of the business experience a rise in disruptive cyber attacks, and more than 1,000 ASEAN companies could lose a combined 750 billion US dollar in market capitalization due to cyber threat. Moreover, recent geopolitical tension have highlighted that the issue of cybersecurity goes far beyond the economic dimension. It is likewise a regional security issue that affect the life of millions of everyday people. It is therefore imperative for ASEAN to take coordinated action to strengthen our capabilities to respond effectively to cybersecurity threat, as well as enhance trust and resilience of the region's digital community in order to realize its full potential. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to highlight some of the core priority area fundamental approach that ASEAN has taken in this regards. First is to build trust and confidence as the fundamental building blocks towards stronger regional cybersecurity. In 2021, ASEAN adopted the consolidated strategy for the fourth industrial revolution that calls for regulatory governance, best practices, and harmonization rules on cybersecurity throughout the region. As such, reinforcing the implementation of the ASEAN framework on data governance and the ASEAN framework on personal data protection remains a key commitment to respect security and privacy. In the same year, ASEAN has adopted the ASEAN Regional Action Plan on the implementation of the norms of responsible state behavior in cybersecurity to intensify confidence building measures and build consensus around multilateral efforts to promote the set of 11 voluntary non-binding norms to maintain international peace, security, and stability. The action plan is a major step forward for ASEAN in establishing a more coherent approach in cybersecurity legislation and preparing for the region's active contribution in the ongoing discussion under the United Nations Open-Ended Working Group and group of the governmental experts. Second is to advance technological readiness cooperation on cybersecurity to effectively respond to imminent cybersecurity threat. Given heightened risks and increased vulnerabilities in digital interconnectivity, the ASEAN Cybersecurity Strategy 2021-2025 was adopted to provide a holistic plan to develop joint regional cooperation platforms to assess and improve ASEAN knowledge and technological capacity. The strategy is set in motion a major move towards establishing the ASEAN Regional Computer Emergency Response Team, which will enable the exchange of real-time threat information. Such exchanges will be a key success factor in the region's responsive to combat cybercrime, address cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and ensure coordinated actions to protect critical information infrastructure across the region, such as power grids or financial and banking system. The strategy also highlights the importance of fostering capacity building to enable collective cybersecurity posture, contribute to international cooperation, and improve ASEAN cybersecurity resilience. The ASEAN-Singapore Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, the ASEAN-Japan Cybersecurity Capacity Building Center, and the ADMM Cybersecurity and Information Center for Excellence are the core initiatives for ASEAN capacity building programs to enhance regional cooperation in the cybersecurity information domains. In this connection, I strongly encourage external partners and other stakeholders, including the private sector, to contribute providing capacity building support for ASEAN as well as to explore new initiatives in this area. Third is to foster coordination and multi-stakeholder engagement. Cybersecurity is a cross-cutting matter that requires a whole-of-the-country solution, community solution, with the active engagement of stakeholders. ASEAN has actively intensified our regular engagement through appropriate regional platforms. This includes East Asia Summit, the ASEAN Regional Forum, ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting, plus the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Transnational Crime, the ASEAN Digital Minister Meeting, and the ASEAN Minister responsible for information, among others. More than ever before, however, we should emphasize the crucial role of the ASEAN Coordinating Committee on Cybersecurity under the ASEAN Digital Minister in promoting coherent, inclusive, and effective dialogue, consultation, and cooperation activities in the ASEAN community pillars. Excellencies, distinguished participants, trusted partnership, effective collaboration, and inclusive dialogue with multiple stakeholders are instrumental in developing coherent regional policy as well as ensuring our future readiness in cybersecurity. The AMCC has evolved to be an important and high-level platform for ASEAN to engage with multiple stakeholders to exchange views and share experiences to address cybersecurity issues and advance regional cybersecurity cooperation initiative in ASEAN. I'm confident that our discussion today will further contribute towards this end and wish you all a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I'd like to invite Minister Teo, ASEAN Deputy Secretary General for Economic Community, His Excellency Satvinder Singh, and our ASEAN representatives to kindly proceed on stage for a photo-taking session. Your Excellencies, please. May I also invite Your Excellencies to raise your right hand in a wave as a gesture of declaration to open the 7th ASEAN Ministerial Conference on Cybersecurity 2022. Once again, I'd like to invite Your Excellencies to raise your right hand in a wave, please, as a gesture of declaration to open the 7th ASEAN Ministerial Conference on Cybersecurity 2022. For the rest of us in the room, could you give our ministers and our excellencies a warm round of applause, please? Thank you, Minister Teo and our ASEAN representatives for joining us for the AMCC opening ceremony. I'd like to invite you back to your seats, please. Thank you, Your Excellencies and distinguished guests. We've now come to the end of the opening ceremony. At this point, I'd like to invite all ASEAN ministers and senior officials to kindly proceed to Studio E for the ASEAN Ministerial Conference on Cybersecurity's main session. See you there.